Hello, fans. I'm Rhonda Blunson. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Ed Tea. Welcome to the third episode in a series where I'm addressing the barriers of learning. Today's topic is one that highlights the trajectory of ambition and enables us to reach the peak of our true self. Walt Whitman once said, "Keep your face always toward the sunshine, and shadows will fall behind you." Without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce two amazing educators, Jackie Gilmore and April Watkins. Well, first of all, I want to thank both of you for being here today to discuss the importance of motivation during the learning process. I'd like to first start by presenting the first question and just giving our listeners insight about the types of motivation that we are referring to. So the first question is, why do you think some students are more motivated to learn than others? Now, first of all, let me just say that we are referring to two different types of motivation. We are referring to extrinsic motivation, which is your desire or willingness to complete a task for reward. I think it's important to point out that the focus is more on the outcome rather than the task itself. We also have what's called intrinsic motivation, which is just the opposite. This is where you have a strong desire to complete a task just for the sake of enjoyment and for your own pleasure with no reward attached to it. So as educators, it's important to recognize and acknowledge the link between learning and motivation. And I think that, we can see this from a number of different ways. I mean, I just kind of want to get, your perspective on it when it comes to, a child's environment or upbringing. Like, what's your take on this?
Well, I personally think that for students, the lack of motivation, one starts with how they are actually taught to become motivated. And so when we get our students in class, we don't necessarily get a chance to spend time with them and showing them the difference between being extrinsically motivated versus intrinsically motivated.
Now, I just want to say this. I feel like your values as a person has a lot to do with motivation. Like like with me, okay, I'm just going to take, for instance, podcasting. Podcasting is something that I love to do, even if I got no reward for it, even if, there's no monetary, reward or praise or of any sort. It's just something that I really enjoy doing. And so that would be like intrinsic motivation. Like, I just find a joy in doing this, regardless of any kind of praise or reward. And so I feel like it's the same thing with students, like some students, they want to learn and they just find some kind of enjoyment. And then other students, it's like, well, okay, what are you going to give me? Are you going to give me candy? Are you going to let me sit next to a buddy? Like, what are you going to give me? Like, what am I going to get in return? Like, they're focused more on the outcome as opposed to doing the task itself. And what's your take on it, Mr. Gilmore?
So as I sit here and think about it, I have to compare me and my brother. Thinking back on our upbringing, my dad always brought up the fact that education was important. Now, I'm the oldest, and while I heard those words, my brother may have taken it a little bit more serious. So what was his motivation at the time? Was it intrinsic or extrinsic, I believe? One of the things would be he make all A's. My mom would allow him to play on the Nintendo for a while. And he's not even a big gamer. I think it was just one of those things of, let me do it and let me see what I can get out of it. But,
Right.
Again, he was one that was always into education, taking it serious.
Right.
So myself, I would do just enough to get by in the beginning. And later in life is when I began to see, like, wait a minute, man, I kind of squandered my education. So let me get back to education because I've already tried the alternative. So when we talk about what motivates you, I think, again, it's probably just your personal makeup and maybe some of what you're taught by family members. And I think for people, it can mean different things at different times. But I think you also have to see the fruits of education to kind of really
I love that. I love that. I love that you said that. And here's the thing with motivation. I feel like it can shift. Because you can start out at one point saying, "Oh, I'm not really interested in doing too much of anything," and then, like you said, once you start to see the fruits of your labor, once you start to see the rewards and the gains, it's like, "Ooh, I really, like this is great. Like I love the rewards of this," and so it motivates you to start doing more. So I really love the story that you shared. Thank you so much. I want to move on with this conversation. I want to go on to the next question. How does motivation or a lack of motivation impact learning? So I know that, just as I reflect on my own personal experiences as a teacher, and I think about, just like the students that I've taught, and just thinking about some students being motivated, some students, they just kind of sit at the desk and I'm having to like prompt them to do everything like, hey, like pick up your pencil, or like, hey, get your materials, like let's get started. First of all, I just want to say that it's really, really hard, as a teacher to have to motivate someone every single day. Like it can start to get really, really exhausting. I mean, you have to be really creative, when it comes to motivating others. So with this question, how does motivation or a lack of motivation impact learning? I feel that when it comes to the impacts, a lot of times kids, they will at some point understand that my lack of motivation is probably not going to help me in the long run. And the more motivated I am to do something, or the more that I show a desire to do something, I think over time they get to see that, it's only going to help me. That's going to only, add to whatever it is that I hope to achieve. So, I mean, April, what is your take on this? How does motivation or lack of motivation impact learning?
I'm thinking about the balance between the different types of motivation that are needed. In my personal experience, I found that when I opened up the definition extrinsic motivation, that it allowed me to create more options for my students to find their way to connect to the education experience. And so, although it may not be something that is necessarily welcome due to like lack of time and other restrictions, you have to make time to intentionally teach the power of motivation, which is connected to discipline.
Right.
That also
It
leads
really is.
into purpose, right?
Right.
So purpose connects to the motivation, and then finding ways to feed that purpose to, create more opportunities of discipline. I feel that can definitely have a positive impact, but then also giving up on perfection. We have to be open to the fact that some lessons that are being learned by our students are based off of cause and effect. What happens, as you stated earlier, when you don't have motivation to get those grades, to pass that grade level? What are the natural consequences of that? And being upfront with students that having discipline and motivation doesn't mean that it is attached to your liking of things. It is your understanding of the importance of it being done.
Correct. Thank you so much. I appreciate your input. And Mr. Gilmore, you can answer this question.
Okay, so when I think about this question in particular, the motivation and lack of motivation and how it impacts learning, I think we do have to ask ourselves, what are these kids seeing today in society? And so not to be one that attacks social media, because again, we're on a social platform right now. But I believe in today's society, they see so much of quick money and ways of making money that have nothing to do with general education. So then those kids end up questioning the why. Why should I sit in math class? Why should I sit in history class? Why should I sit in English class? What is really motivating them to take their education serious? And if we're honest with ourselves, if they don't come from a background where education is highly promoted, then their why is not enough to motivate them, to convince them. And so at the end of the day, we just become teachers that are in front of a classroom, maybe only reaching a small percentage of our students. So, but I believe we have to get to a point to where how does English, how does math help you, even if you are getting into, again, that social media space or that entrepreneurial space that may not have anything to do with reading, math, or social studies. We have to try to wait to bridge those things and again, maybe even adjust the education system for some of those types of students.
Yes, definitely. Yes, definitely. Would you like to add?
I absolutely agree. And I think that key is flexibility.
Yeah.
Yes, adjusting the archaic system that we have to reach the current needs and make clear connections, because even at the root of the fast money, you still need those foundational skills so you can keep the fast money. And so, really appealing to that spirit that is in this current generation, really helping them map out how this works for you is going to be the new motivation.
And if I may add, again, and if we're really, and if it really is about our future and really about these kids, I think we do have to consider how do we be flexible? How do we get it to where we can get that motivation again back up? How can we get these kids excited about moving forward with their education? I think when we spoke before, we talked about all learners are different, but everybody being capable of learning. So again, how do we cater to this as educators, as an educational system? Again, to keep building, because we won't have all doctors and lawyers and you know, these high positions.
And they're all important. I mean, we need everybody. I mean, everybody's important. And I mean, I feel too that and like you said, we kind of discussed this before. I feel like we have to get kids to see the value in a lot of what they do. You know, when you see the value in something, then your motivation really shoots up from there. I mean, I feel like that's the key is how do I make this relevant to a kid? How do I make this valuable to them? How do I get them to see that what you are learning is going to help you in the real world? You know, that's the key here. So thank you guys for your input on that question. Love that. So I want to move on with this conversation. The next question is, how does building relationships with students influence the learning process? I want to go back to to something that I stated before, I think it's important for teachers to really get to know their students. And I say this because their success is our success. Okay. Now, I know during my last year of teaching, I had somewhere around 160 students, and I made it a point to get to know all of them. I wanted to know something about all of them. Now, I got to know some better than others, obviously, because they interacted with me more. They may participate in class more. They just felt more comfortable speaking. But, I wanted to get to know something about all of them because I knew that it would allow me to offer a reward that I knew they'd like or enjoy. Because, sometimes too, like the rewards that we think a child might like or be interested in, it may not be. You know what I mean? Like one kid may work for a piece of candy. Another kid may work, if you say, hey, the last 5 minutes of class, I'll let you sit next to your buddy, or I'll let you, maybe play a video game at the end of class, the last 5 minutes of class. So you have to get to know all of them. You have to get to know, you know, what their likes or their dislikes are. And, sometimes that can be really hard as a teacher, but, we have to build those relationships because once again, their success is our success.
I agree.
Yes.
To add on to this, I remember reading a book titled The Principles of Management, and I think it kind of goes directly along with your question. And so in that book, it addressed the differences between a manager and a leader. And a manager is, again, somebody that's just looking over, making sure things are done. A, B, C, D. Not very influential at all. More so just a boss. I tell you what to do and you do it. And your recipients, your workers, in this case, our students, you don't get a lot of feedback. They may do the job, they may not do the job. And if they do the job, again, it's just at the point to let me get it done and let me get out of here.
Right.
But the book described a leader as somebody who, again, was impressionable, could motivate, and develops that type of relationship with his workers. And again, in this state, our students, to where you bring out that effort, that extra effort that they may not give to any other teacher at any other time.
Right.
But also they want to learn from you. You've made that great of an impact by getting to know them, and not treating them just like another number or another student.
Right.
So now when Jenny or James comes into my classroom, they say, hey man, Mr. Gilmore, he really believes in me. I'm going to really try.
Right.
And so now, as that leader to them and building those relationships with them, even when they make the smallest of progress, I'm praising that. So they just may try a little bit harder and letting them know that, hey man, any progress is better than no progress.
Right.
So for a person like me in the path that I took, I believe it to be very important. Building those relationships, I believe it to be the most single important thing when it comes to education, coaching, raising kids in general. And I know we're on the education tip, but again, building those relationships to say, hey, I'm here for you. I care about your well-being and I want to see you to do well in whatever it is you do. And so I believe once you establish that great relationship and they know that it's genuine, I think at that point you can get the best out of these kids.
Yes. And thank you so much. Actually, it just sparked something in me as you were speaking and you were saying, just being genuine and getting to know them. Kids can sense when you're asking them, you're just trying to get them to do a task just for the sake of getting them to do it, and when you actually care. Like, they actually know the difference. They can sense that. So thank you so much for pointing that out. I want to move on to the final question of this conversation. The final question is, what can educators and school districts do to motivate students to learn? I know, like, for me, with my students, I would give them candy. I would try to give them some form of recess. Of course, when we talk about recess, it has to be age appropriate. I know with high school, that's going to look different as, when you're thinking about high school or middle school and elementary school. I mean, it's all going to look different, but I feel like some form of recess for students, they always appreciated that. I do know that some school districts have a reward program or like a reward system. I feel like that's really important. I mean, because I feel like we all want to be praised for our work. We all want to be recognized. We all want people to see our efforts. And so I think it's really important to not only, speak in a certain way to students. We want to get them to do something, but we have to show it through our actions. We have to give them something, because I mean, just saying, hey, little Johnny, you did a great job. Maybe that's not good enough all the time. Maybe we may have to give them something or allow them to do something. So I feel like, I know for me as a teacher, I always made it a point to reward students for everything, like for even if something as simple as, oh, you wrote your name on your paper, you brought your supplies today. Like that's even something to celebrate. So if you guys want to contribute to this question, feel free to do so.
I think this is probably my favorite question, the call to action. My personal experience, what shifted for me teaching ELA to middle school students was shifting the dynamic of the classroom experience. It shifted from educator versus student to classroom community. So at the beginning of the school year, I'm already seeking information for you to contribute to this learning experience. I'm providing you with clear goals. We have healthy competition because we like competition. We want to challenge each other across, different homerooms. You want to, even grade levels, you want to leverage the older students to be mentors and support the younger students. And then we need to have more spaces of outside of the school, but the community involvement and a holistic approach to self-actualization, because those two components create safe spaces for students to find what motivates them. And then we're able to guide them into finding that intrinsic motivation and branching out on how they're extrinsically motivated by just giving them more opportunities to input into their experience.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, so for me, yes, to answer this question and to kind of piggyback off of what she was saying, I would take the stand of we have to find ways of not excluding kids that probably just don't fit the mold. I know where I work, we actually have a field trip system set up, and it's like, oh, if they failed a class or if they got written up, boom, they're automatically excluded. Well, in my opinion, I don't think you make it so easy to exclude them, because what if something on that field trip, which is essentially a learning experience, what if there's something there that catches their eye and changes it? I think we can all we can relate to that, to where we saw something at some point in our lives that made us want to be a certain way, make us want to work in a certain profession. So that's would be my way of rewarding. We, again, if it's about the kids, it's about making a better future. We make that possible by any means necessary. So just including them more, and so, because the last thing anybody ever wants is for somebody to give up on them.
Right.
Yeah, I would say reward by, again, bringing them in closer. So.
Yes, thank you so much for your contribution. I want to thank both of you for such an amazing conversation on this topic, and feel free to come back at any point in the future.
Yes.
Love that. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Fans, I would like to thank all of you for tuning in to another episode in this series, and I look forward to you joining me again in the next episode where I will discuss another enlightening topic in this series. If you would like to support my vision to educate the public about the concealed and controversial happenings in the world of education, please send an email to the edtpodcast@gmail.com. That's THEEDTEAPODCAST and include the word support in the subject line. A link will be sent to you within 24 to 48 hours. Please follow me on your favorite podcast network, for more specifically Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, as I explore other debated topics in the world of education. I can't wait to meet you there to spill the tea.